Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, our 888th show. Thank you, Jeremy, for getting the count right, because we got it wrong. So, today we're showing films involving 8. Let me see if I can turn this thing off. It's driving me nuts. So that last film is very much a mystery. It's silent. So it was double sprocketed. It was raw materials, and I'm not sure if it was from a commercial or if it was from, I don't know what it was from. I mean, obviously it's all the makings for a commercial of some sort of compilation thing that was available on 8-track tape. What it has to do with this class ring, no idea. And there's no soundtrack that came with it. This was in a bunch of films that I got from Memphis, Tennessee, a long time ago, which was a bunch of educational films, some sales stuff that were shown in theaters, this film, and then some porn. So, today, everything's related to 8. This next film is Kodak trying to get people, specifically schools, interested in using the new Super 8 footage or format to capture and sporting events for analyzing for coaches, so that you would film it, then you'd go back after the event and you would talk about like improving form, strategies, etc. So this is analyzing sports with film. Enjoy.
Just about every college and most high schools use movies for coaching football. Movies have been one of the most effective coaching tools ever developed. Every move, every strategic play can be recorded and then analyzed later. But while football has been proving the value of film analysis, nearly every other sport has been left out in the cold. And you know, this is strange, because analytical movies can be just as valuable to any other sport as they are to football. Movies can, in fact, help any coach improve all athletic performances. Movies can show a team how to work as a team, can pinpoint plays that come off just right, and those that go wrong. Slow motion studies can help develop coordination. Improve balance and timing. And can show up the kinks that happen so fast that they can't be detected by any other means. All the advantages that movies give to football are just as applicable to every other sport. Perhaps there have been pretty good reasons for those other sports being left out in the cold. Sometimes movies haven't been too practical from a budget point of view, and then too, they usually required a certain amount of photographic skill to get usable pictures. But those problems are over now. Let me show you the new movie system that Kodak has come up with, a system that's just right for all sports. We've dubbed it the Super 8 Sports Analysis Team. It's a complete system. A coach's camera, coach's film, and a coach's projector. Together, an automated system. Each component has been designed to take all of the fuss and complications out of movie making. With this equipment, in your athletic department, each one of your coaches can benefit from movies of his sport because this movie-making system is foolproof, is economical, and it pays off in results. You've undoubtedly heard about Super 8, the dramatically improved 8mm film format pioneered by Kodak. Super 8 is a real improvement. It gives you all the economies of regular 8mm, plus a great improvement in image quality. Super 8 film gives you 50% more picture area than regular 8mm for bigger, sharper movies on your screen. But now, let's take a closer look at the equipment. This is the Ectographic 8 camera. Its special features make it ideal for sports work. Loading, nothing to it. And believe me, there's no way to load it wrong. What's more, you can unload and reload so fast you'll rarely miss a play. Exposure? Don't give it a thought. Each film cartridge has this indexing slot that tells the camera all about the film speed. You don't have to set a thing. The camera adjusts itself automatically to give you proper exposure for any location or light level. There's a sensitive electric eye behind the lens to do all the metering for you. The camera takes into account the speed rating of the film, filming speed, and the amount of light on the screen, puts them all together and comes out with the proper exposure. All without guesswork, without complications. The Ectographic 8 is a reflex camera. You look straight through the lens that is taking the pictures. You see exactly what the film is getting. That orange mask is off camera, so to speak, but it lets you keep your eye on the play and still anticipate the action around the center of interest. The camera also has an excellent zoom lens that's powered by a battery. Its 5:1 zoom ratio allows you to pull back for wide angles that show the whole situation and then zoom in quickly and smoothly for a close-up study. Of course, you don't have to zoom. You can use a lens to get the size picture you want. This, or anything in between. This one zoom lens takes the place of several ordinary lenses. Like the zoom lens, the camera is run by electric drive. But what makes this the ideal camera for sports is that it will run at different speeds, permitting you to choose the type of analysis that best fits your needs. 18 frames per second is for normal coverage, 24 frames to slow down and smooth out the action, and 32 frames for slow motion study. We'll see in a minute how the action can be slowed down still further in the projector. Changing the camera speed is simple. Just set the speed dial for the speed you want, and the camera makes all the speed and exposure adjustments for you. Now let's talk about film and lighting, or rather, the absence of any special lighting. Although we're shooting this film in color, for fast local processing or economy, you may prefer black and white. Either Kodak Plus X or Tri-X reversal film. Tri-X is that dependable film coaches use for night football. It's fast enough for you to shoot indoors or in just about any other available light situation and get full coverage without any special movie lights. Outdoors, of course, you'd pick Plus X Reversal. Its speed is designed to give you best results for daylight shooting. Right here, we better say a word about your Kodak processor dealers, the people who are set up to provide fast, quality service for processing these two fine black and white Super 8 films and give you any other help or information you may need. The last member of the Super 8 sports analysis team is the Kodak Instamatic M70 projector. With the Instamatic M70 projector, you can make your slow motion movies even slower by projecting them at 6 frames per second, like this. Or you can go backwards and forwards for critical review. Or freeze, the key part of the action. You can project your film just as it was shot, or use the high-speed control to race through the footage to the next particular shot you want to review. Now, we've been preoccupied with details the last few minutes, so let's stop and reconsider what we're really trying to accomplish. That is, to provide every coach of every sport with a tool to help his boys reach their top potential, improve their individual performances, gain maximum rewards from the time and energy invested in athletic programs. Every one of us who has used sports film knows for a fact that when a boy sees himself on the screen, he has an insight and understanding that can be gained in no other way. Film doesn't lie. It never forgets, but it does leave an accurate, lasting impression. One sidelight. When this picture you're looking at was being made, the cameraman was besieged by the boys to see the results. If we needed any proof of the value of these pictures, the concentration with which they were received and the impression they made furnished it. Now, before we wind up, let me toss in one or two tips for your cameraman. For games, floor or ground shots can be dramatic, but to see all the action and all the play on both sides, get your man up high. If possible, give him plenty of working room so he can follow the action freely. If he's jammed in somewhere, the crowd is bound to get in his way, particularly if the going gets exciting. Again, here's a quick kick from the ground. Nice shot of the kicker, but that's about all. Here's the same kick in slower motion and from a high angle. You see every man, every assignment, and you see how the play turned out. For football, basketball, soccer, and similar games, the best general rule is to set your zoom lens for a picture just big enough to catch every significant man in the play and no more. For individual performances, keep in tight and slow the faster actions down with your speed control. With the foolproof Kodak Sports Analysis team, these few tips and a little experience, any student or faculty member can get shots like this every time. So I guess that's about all I have to say for today. But my one last word to every coach who wants his boys to live up to their full potential, and what coach doesn't, analyze your sport with film.
So, that was, sorry, this thing is, all right, I gotta make this go away. This is getting to be problematic. All right, so yeah, that was kind of a sales film for Super 8, for that format that had just come out within the last couple of years, and Kodak was trying to reach all the markets where they were selling 16 millimeter film, trying to, some places had the budget for 16, but 16 was expensive, and Super 8 had the potential of being a lot cheaper. So you could say like, well, a good Kodak salesperson would say, well, the camera is this inexpensive, and the projector is inexpensive, and you can shoot this much more footage as opposed to 16, so that could fit your budget. Yeah. So behind me, film scanner, 16 millimeter film scanner, and we get to learn about 8 parts of a business letter. Enjoy.
Letters, millions of them from every nook and corner of our land. We Americans are the world's greatest letter writers. Many thousands of clerks handle our mail. Letters are the endless lines of communication which lubricate the wheels of American business and government. We use every possible device to speed the delivery of mail. Much of it is sorted while traveling toward its destination. American letter writers produced so much mail that some of our big corporations in the ordinary routine of business handle thousands of airmail letters a day. America's army of letter carriers is doing a never-ending job. According to Uncle Sam's postal statistics, we mail 16 billion pieces of first-class matter a year, mainly letters, and these constitute a majority of the pieces, making up the grand total of 29 billions. To speed up the endless procession of letters, the handling of business correspondence has become highly standardized. Although business firms vary somewhat in their style, every secretary uses stationery of a standard size, shape, and texture. Whether her firm is large or small, she prepares her letters to conform with the generally accepted rules. Even a pen-written letter prepared at home, if it deals with a business subject, should follow the standard style of correspondence. It should be folded, enclosed, and addressed as carefully as a letter prepared in a business office. These small folded sheets of social stationery, 24 to a box with small envelopes to match, are not proper for business letters. Compare the size of social stationery with the size of business stationery. The small folded sheet is 5.5 inches wide. The business letter sheet is 8.5 inches wide. The piece of social stationery is 7 inches long, whereas the sheet of business letter stationery is 11 inches long. The smaller sheets should be used only for social notes. Compare the envelopes. Note that the standard business envelope is 6.5 inches wide. The social envelope is smaller than the business envelope. Here is a standard business letter file. Each drawer is built to hold folders containing letters of the standard size. Alphabetical guides likewise are cut to fit the standard letter size. Carbon paper for making extra copies is cut to fit the standard size letter. The typewriter is built to hold the standard letterhead, 8.5 inches wide. Paper manufacturers have standardized letter paper in reams to be cut exactly in quarters without waste. Here are reams as they come from the manufacturer. Each ream contains 500 sheets of white paper size 17 by 22, just 4 times the size of the standard letterhead. The stock is called bond paper because of its strong texture. It is suitable for both typewritten and pen-written letters. The 17-inch dimension is just twice the width of a letterhead, and the 22-inch dimension is just twice the length with a slight margin for trimming. The reams may be cut for printing letterheads 2 at a time or 1 at a time, but the finished letterheads are regularly 8.5 by 11. 500 sheets make 2,000 letterheads. Here you see letterheads being printed 4 at a time. These sheets, when cut in quarters, will make standard letterheads. The first part of a business letter is called the heading. If we use plain paper, we write the heading as a unit, beginning at the middle of the page and at least an inch from the top. The heading includes the writer's address and the date. When using printed letterheads, we add the date. We omit punctuation at the ends of lines in the heading. Likewise, in Part 2, usually called the introduction, we omit punctuation at the ends of lines. This includes the name and address of the firm or person to whom the letter is written. Part 3, the salutation, is followed by a colon. Part 4 is the body of the letter. Note that we follow the block system, all lines beginning flush at the left. The experienced secretary has judged the space the letter will require and has left suitable margins at the sides. Note the double spacing between the parts. Part 5 is the complementary close. This begins at the middle of the page with a capital Y and is followed by a comma. Part 6 is the signature. If the secretary signs the writer's name, she adds her initial below it. Part 7 is the return address in the upper left corner of the envelope. Part 8 is the outside address, identical with Part 2, the introductory address. The outside address is written below the middle of the envelope with equal margins at left and right. We fold the letter to within a 1/4 inch of the top and crease it. Then we fold it in thirds and insert the folded edge. Now suppose the letter has been a long one requiring a second page. The succeeding page is plain, unprinted. Across the top we write a one-line heading including the name of the addressee, the number of the page, and the date. The envelope, instead of 6½ inches, is 9 inches wide. The letter, instead of being folded in half and then in thirds, is folded in thirds across the entire width to conform with the envelope. The outside address is always below the middle of the envelope. Now let us review the 8 parts of the letter, noting the general display and the clearly defined margins. Part 1, the heading includes everything above the introduction. 2, the introduction. 3, the salutation. 4, the body. 5, the complimentary close. 6, the signature. 7, the return address. 8, the outside address. To save time, some firms use window envelopes so that Part 2, the introductory address, serves also as Part 8, the outside address. The folding is just the reverse of the usual style, so that the writing appears on the outside and can be seen through the transparency of the window. This type of envelope calls for accuracy in folding. The crease comes just below the salutation. Now let us outline the parts of a letter. The heading, the introduction, the salutation, the body, the complimentary close, the signature, the return address, the outside address. The need for trained secretaries is greater today than ever before. Students must learn the fundamentals of good form as quickly as possible and proceed to practice the many types of letters used in business and government. Inquiries, orders, claims, adjustments, crits, collections. Always remembering that good form is essential.
All right. That's what we do here at AV Geeks. Compelling informational films about technologies that are no longer used. You know, you think about Slack nowadays, or Twitter, or, you know, all these other ways you communicate with businesses, and this is how radically different things are now. Yeah, pretty exciting nonetheless. All right, what else we got? Oh, okay. This next film is about Apollo 8. Go for TLI. Enjoy.
December 21st, 1968. The shortest day of the year, but in significance, perhaps one of the longest in the flow of history.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit. We have liftoff. Liftoff at 7:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have cleared the top.
Tower clear, 13 seconds.
The United States was undertaking the most distant voyage ever attempted by man. For the first time, 3 Americans rode the Saturn V moon rocket.
Apollo 8 Houston, you are go for staging, over. Roger, understand, sir. Apollo 8. We hear you loud and clear, Apollo 8. Okay, the first stage was very smooth, and this one is smoother. Apollo 8 Houston, your trajectory and guidance are go, over. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, you're looking real good, Frank.
Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders were about to leave their cradle Earth and face the infinite frontier.
Apollo 8 Houston. Go ahead, Houston. Apollo 8, you are go for TLI, over. Roger, understand. We're go for TLI.
TLI, Translunar Insertion. This was the commitment. Borman, Lovell, and Anders were ready for the maneuver that would send them to the moon. As the world listened and watched, its people were overtaken by a new awareness, an awareness that they were perhaps witnessing the overture to the ultimate destiny of man.
Lovell confirms ignition. And the thrust is okay, Booster says.
On board the spacecraft and in mission control, the men of Apollo 8 watched the readouts. Velocity buildup in feet per second. The numbers snowballing toward the velocity that would allow the spacecraft to escape Earth's gravity.
And Borman says we've got SECO. Cutoff was right on the second.
With the cutoff of their third stage engine, Apollo 8 was traveling faster than had any men before, a coasting uphill climb against the pull of their native planet. Now the third stage, the S-4B, was just useless mass to them. It was jettisoned, then later placed into an orbit around the sun. The crew of Apollo 8 turned around for a look.
Houston, Apollo 8, how do you read? Yeah, loud and clear, Frank. How are you? Roger, we're loud and clear. We're taking pictures of the S-4B. The post-separation sequence is completed, and we seem to have a high gain. Give us clues to what it looks like from way up there. Roger. I can see the entire Earth now out of the center window. I can see Florida, Cuba,
Central America, the whole northern half of Central America, in fact, all the way down through Argentina and down through Chile.
You picked a good day for it.
Houston, for information, I'm looking through the scanning telescope now, and I see millions of stars, most of them the vending from the S-4B.
The crew of Apollo 8 now settled down to the routine of the outward flight. Systems checks, observations, navigational star sightings.
Jim, they've just been looking at your marks with respect to accuracy, and they figure they're within a couple thousandths of a degree of the theoretical optimum.
Lovell's proficiency in navigating the spacecraft with its onboard optical instruments would eventually earn him the nickname the man with the golden fingers. His speed was such that he would be requested to slow down so that the earthbound machines recording the data could keep up with him. The accuracy of his sightings was virtually flawless, symbolic of the entire mission. A mission so accurate that several of the planned mid-course corrections would be dropped as unnecessary. Astronauts, spacecraft, flight controllers, computers. The precision was fantastic. Then, on the second day out, the world looked in on the crew via television.
This transmission is coming to you approximately halfway between the moon and the Earth. We've been 31 hours, about 20 minutes into flight. We have about less than 40 hours left to go to the moon.
So Apollo 8 glided on silently, farther from Earth than man had ever before been, a microscopic dot of life in the cosmic void. Around the world, in Goldstone, California, Madrid, Spain, Canberra, Australia, the gigantic antennas of the Deep Space Network tracked Apollo 8, received its communiques, picked up the voice of its telemetry. Only for the 40 minutes of its transit behind the moon on each orbit would Apollo 8 lose contact with Earth. Then, on the day before Christmas, the network zeroed in on the spacecraft television antenna for the second broadcast to Earth.
All right, you're all looking at yourselves as seen from 180,000 miles out in space. Mike, what I keep imagining is if I'm some lonely traveler from another planet, what do I think about the Earth from this altitude? Whether I think it'd be inhabited or not.
You don't see anybody waving, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just kind of curious whether I would land on the blue or the brown part of the Earth. You better hope we land in the blue part.
Shortly after they turned off the television camera, Borman, Lovell, and Anders ended their long climb away from Earth. Crossing the point where the gravity of Earth and Moon just balanced, they became the first men to fall toward another celestial body. Now the time approached for the most immense commitment of the mission, Lunar Orbit Insertion, LOI. A burn of the service module engine would place Apollo 8 into orbit around the moon. Up to this time, without further major maneuvers, the spacecraft would loop around the moon and return to Earth. Once the burn was made, Apollo 8 would be held by the moon's gravity field until a later burn would push it free.
Apollo 8, this is Houston at 6804, your goal for LOI.
Okay, Apollo 8 is go.
You're riding the best bird we can find.
Lunar orbit insertion would take place on the backside of the moon. With the moon between the spacecraft and the Earth, all contact would be lost until it appeared on the other side. In mission control, they anticipated LOS, loss of signal, from Apollo 8.
We'll see you on the other side.
Now, mission control and the world could only wait. Wait for the first contact with Apollo 8 as it emerged from behind the moon.
We've got it. Apollo 8 now in lunar orbit. There's a cheer in this room. This is Apollo Control Houston, switching now to the voice of Jim Lovell.
By 60.5, good to hear your voice.
The burn was as close to perfect as possible. Later burns would circularize the orbit, and the three astronauts would circle the moon 10 times in 20 hours. Sunrise, sunset, every 2 hours on an alien world. And they would take pictures, still photographs as well as motion picture film, here seen at a much faster rate than orbital velocity.
Apollo 8, Houston, what does the old moon look like from 60 miles, over?
Okay, Houston. The moon is essentially gray. No color. Looks like plaster of Paris. Or sort of a grayish beach sand. We can see quite a bit of detail. The craters are all rounded off. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are newer. Many of them look like, especially the round ones, look like hit by meteorites or projectiles of some sort. Langrenus is quite a huge crater. It's got a central cone to it. The walls of the crater are terraced, about 6 or 7 different terraces on the way down.
The world saw and heard the first live telecast of the lunar surface.
Hey, Bill, how would you describe the color of the moon from here?
The color of the moon looks a very whitish gray, like dirty beach sand, and with lots of footprints in it.
Don't these new craters look like pickaxes striking concrete, leaving a lot of fine haze dust?
Scientist, engineer, astronaut, the world, all followed the progress of Apollo 8. For this was preparation, an advanced scout marking the way for those who would follow, those who would orbit, those who would land, navigate, track, observe, record, describe.
There's no trouble picking out features that we learned on the map.
Certainly looks like we're picking the more interesting parts of the moon to land in. The backside looks like a sand pile my kids have been playing in for a long time. It's all beat up, no definition, just a lot of bumps and holes. The area that we're over right now gives us a hint of possible volcanic, though I really can't eyeball it at the moment to pin that down. No, there are some craters and buildups that definitely suggest volcanic activity.
Then a Christmas Eve message the world could not forget.
Welcome from the moon, Houston.
Thank you.
The moon is a different thing to each one of us. I know my own impression is that it's a vast, lonely, forbidding type existence or expanse of nothing. It looks rather like clouds and clouds of pumice stone.
Beyond technology, beyond science, Apollo 8 was bringing to the world a new awareness, an expansion of mind and spirit that must forever alter the perspective of humanity, physically and philosophically.
And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
There was little time for the crew of Apollo 8 to reflect. The next job was to make sure that the spacecraft was ready for the most critical maneuver of the mission, the firing of the service module engine for TEI, trans-Earth insertion, and the trip home. There was no go, no-go decision on this one. It had to go.
All systems are go, Apollo 8.
Thank you.
For the final time, Apollo 8 passed behind the moon, out of contact with Earth, for this most critical of all the burns. On the ground, men waited.
Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston. Apollo 8, Houston.
Apollo 8, over.
Hello, Apollo 8. Loud and clear.
Roger. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus.
That's affirmative. You're the best ones to know.
3 very tired astronauts were on their way home. And with them rode an army of engineers, scientists, technicians, programmers, flight controllers, all those whose dedicated efforts were Apollo 8. After catching up on their rest, homeward bound, there was more a mood of elation, contrasted with the outbound loneliness.
I told Michael you guys are up there, and he said, who's driving?
That's a good question. I think Isaac Newton's doing most of the driving right now.
We were enjoying the holiday, in the Christian world, Christmas, and we paused for a moment in our celebrations to watch three travelers heading home. As many of us sat down to our Christmas meal, Borman, Lovell, and Anders were enjoying theirs.
It appears that we did a grave injustice to the food people. Santa Claus brought us a TV dinner each, which is delicious. Turkey and gravy, cranberry sauce, grape punch, outstanding.
Glad to, Jim. Glad to hear it. You know, we're down here eating cold coffee and bologna sandwiches.
As on the way out, there were periods of work. The navigational ability of the spacecraft and crew was proving phenomenal. And periods of rest, a single man on watch.
Well, Ken, that just leaves you or I. How about you and I? Anything exciting happen today?
Real quiet down here. Everybody's smiling. Everything's pretty calm, like it should be on Christmas.
Very good.
Yeah, Milt says we're in a period of relaxed vigilance.
Very good. We'll relax, you be vigilant.
The final television transmission, 97,000 miles out, farther than man had been on any previous mission, but now tantalizingly close to home.
I think I must have the feeling that the travelers in the old sailing ships used to have. You've gone on a very long voyage away from home, and now we're headed back, and I have that feeling of being proud of the trip, but still happy to be going back home and back to our home port.
Every second brought the spacecraft closer to its fiery entry, the final plunge to the safety of Earth. On the morning of December 27th, the word was given to Apollo 8. The pyrotechnic devices that would separate the command and service modules prior to entry were armed.
Apollo 8, Apollo 8. Your go for pyro arm. Everything's looking good.
Roger, everything's looking good here, Ken.
On schedule, the command module jettisoned the service module to expose the main heat shield, aligned itself to entry attitude, and slammed into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, faster than man had ever traveled until Apollo 8. A tracking aircraft took these films of the entry, the spacecraft seen as an incandescent fireball. With the temperature on the heat shield reaching 5,000 degrees, the communications were blacked out. The men in mission control waited once more.
Ken Mattingly just put in a call and just frankly labeled it a radio check. He's gotten no responses yet. Ken Mattingly puts in another call. And there's Jim Lovell.
We're in real good shape, Houston.
Real fine.
The landing was right on target. Later, Frank Borman would report passing over the recovery ship as Apollo 8 drifted down toward the sea on its parachutes. As Borman carrier deck, a huge and patriotic celebration broke loose in mission control. A celebration echoed by the hundreds of thousands of men and women who were Apollo 8.
Again, it's Apollo Control here. I'm not sure how well our voice is getting out. There is a tremendous roar, an undercurrent of roar in the background. And I have never seen the degree of this emotional outpouring in any previous mission, including Alan Shepard's. I've seen rallies in locker rooms after championship games. I've seen happy politicians after elections, but none of them do justice to the spirit pervading this room.
But the triumph of Apollo 8 was beyond the bounds of nationalism. It was a fruition of the ages of humanity. The first Chinese setting off a gunpowder rocket, the Englishman, Newton, the German, Kepler, the Russian, Tsiolkovsky, the American, Goddard. For one moment in history, the nations of Earth were united in the eternity of deep space. In Havana, in Washington, in London, in Moscow, in Tokyo. All of mankind joined 3 Americans, orbiting 60 miles above a stark, lifeless world.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness.
The vast loneliness up here on the moon is awe-inspiring, and it makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth. The Earth from here is a grand oasis in the big vastness of space.
Give us, O God, the vision which can see thy love in the world in spite of human failure. Give us the faith to trust the goodness in spite of our ignorance and weakness. Give us the knowledge that we may continue to pray with understanding hearts. And show us what each one of us can do to set forward the coming of the day of universal peace. Amen.
One more, real quick.
Folklore, a people's legends. Traditional stories, as in Africa. Folklore transforms. It makes the ordinary into the magical. These stories give beauty to the ways of man. They give him dignity. They express the joy of life. Folklore, mythology, these prepare man for adult life. They place him within his culture. With oral traditions, retold through generations, the social group maintains its continuity, handing down its culture. Here is a long-established culture, the Ashanti, in West Africa, in the country of Ghana. Here is a green stronghold of dense rainforests between the ocean and the desert. The home of the Ashanti people protects its oral traditions. The Ashanti have had a federation, a highly organized society for over 400 years. Still today, as long ago, the Ashanti are superb artisans, excellent in fine metalwork, weavers of beautiful silk fabric. In this fabric, they weave the rich symbols of their art and folklore. Sun, moon, creation, universe, the web of the cosmos, and Anansi, the spider. Anansi is a folk hero for the Ashanti. This funny fellow is a rogue, a wise and lovable trickster, shrewd and cunning folk hero Anansi triumphs over larger foes. A spider with human qualities, Anansi is a mischief maker. He tumbles into many troubles. Here is one of his adventures. Anansi, he is Spider to the Ashanti people. In Ashanti land, people love this story of Kwaku Anansi. Time was Anansi had 6 sons. One son was called Sea Trouble. Sea Trouble had the gift of seeing trouble a long way off. Next son was Road Builder. Thirsty son was River Drinker. Another son was Game Skinner. Next son was Stone Thrower. And last of sons was Cushion. He was very soft. All good sons of Anansi. One time, Anansi went a long way, far from home. He got lost. He fell into trouble. Father is in danger. Sea trouble, he knew it quickly. He told those other sons. Road Builder's son said, "Follow me." Off he went, making a road. They went fast, those 6 brothers, gone to help Anansi. Where is father now? The fish has swallowed him. River Drinker took a big drink. No more river. Then Game Skinner helped Father Anansi. More trouble came right then. It was Falcon took Anansi up in the sky. Quick now, Stone Thrower. Cushion ran to help father. Very soft, Anansi came down. They were very happy, that spider family. All home again, that night, Kwaku Anansi saw a thing in the forest. What is this? A great globe of light? Oh, mysterious and beautiful, I shall give this to my son, said Anansi, to the son who rescued me. But which son of 6? Which deserves this prize? Nyame, can you help me? Oh, Nyame. For Ashanti people, Nyame is the god of all things. Anansi asked this of Nyame. Please hold the beautiful globe of light until I know which son should have it for his own. And so they tried to decide which son deserved the prize. They tried, but they could not decide. Nyame saw this. God of all things, he took the beautiful white light up into the sky. He keeps it there for all to see. It is still there. It will always be there. It is there tonight.
There we go. Yeah, what's happening? I think I damaged something. Anyways, I showed that film because 8-legged animal, and it's 8, and I had this thing showing, but I think it kind of freaked out. What's going on? Yeah, so anyways, it's the 888th show, and thank you for joining us. We showed films related to 8. Thank you, Jeremy, for contributing $8.88 via the Super Thanks button. You can also contribute by hitting the thumbs up button, or doing the comments, or telling other people about what we do, or there's so many ways to do this. Watching other things that we've been putting on our YouTube channel, which has some ads, which we make pennies for watching. You can also buy the AV Geek coffee mug. There's a link, I think, to products on the YouTube AV Geeks YouTube channel. You can also just buy us coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks, or go to patreon.com/avgeeks. That will help pay for things like digitizing equipment. We have a lot of digitizing equipment, and it's not cheap. So we're still paying off our big film scanner. This one's been paid off, but we've had it for many years. And we have another scanner that we're paying off. It allows us to scan 16mm films that have shrunken and are warped. And so your donations help for that. We'll be back again tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll watch some more films. I should say that if you're in the Raleigh-Durham area and you'd like to see us live, we're going to be doing a show at the Alamo Draft House at 7 p.m. in the lobby. It's a free show, and the theme of the show is free-range kids. So kids from the 60s and 70s going wild. It's really amazing stuff, and also might give us pause to think like, well, maybe that's why we've locked down kids going out in the world so much, because some of the films are very cautionary in that regard. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. Very much appreciate it, and we will see you tomorrow. Everybody take care.